Hello and welcome to The Sexually Satisfied Woman. I am your host, Eva Blake. And in this interview series, I'm talking to a variety of experts who are uniquely qualified to discuss some of the most common challenges that women face in our sexuality. And over the course of this series, we're going to offer real practices and proven strategies to boost your confidence, ditch the shame, and create truly remarkable relationship intimacy so that you can have the sexual satisfaction that you deserve, especially in these uncertain and changing times. So it's my pleasure to introduce Tamica Wilder. She is a somatic sexologist and complementary therapist with over a decade of group work and facilitation experience. She leads with embodied wisdom, passion, playfulness, curiosity, and heart in all that she does. She believes that our human sexuality is an important and often ignored piece of the personal development puzzle. And her work arms you with the tools you need to fully lean into life and experience your full, shameless, sexual, and embodied expression in all areas of your life. So welcome here, Tamica Wilder. So good to have you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I love these chats. I feel like I'm very lucky to have lots of these, and I love it.
Great.
Thanks for coming on.
Perfect. So your website is called The Orgasmic Mama. Let's just start there because it's really juicy and delicious. What inspired you to become an orgasmic mama and share your wisdom and call for sexual freedom with the rest of the world?
Yes, good question. I just feel that as a mum, I see and speak to so many mamas that have really inherited the conditioned belief that we need to cut off access to our profound sexuality when we enter motherhood. And what I've learned to be true, what I understand about my body and the function of pleasure is that mums need to be able to do the very opposite, to be thriving in their household and be thriving in our bodies. And I'm like, I need to be a bold stand for the orgasmic mama. And so becoming the orgasmic mama myself was like the best way of doing that. And so I'm obsessed with teaching mums to be that.
Awesome. So, I mean, let's talk about what it is that you are teaching and the advice that you're offering to moms, right? Because now we're in the COVID reality. And I know that you are in Australia, but still, there's still this element in all places around the world where there's this element of social isolation. Maybe the kids are at home for more time than they were a year ago. There's homeschooling. And so I think that, one of the things I'm hearing from moms and parents is too much time with the kids, too much time with the partners, not enough time for myself, and not at all interested in sex. So what kind of advice and coaching are you offering to moms who are just not feeling it at all and overwhelmed by all the stuff?
It's interesting because yes, there is a huge difference at the moment during COVID in a lot of ways. And the themes that are arriving inside of motherhood in terms of sex, pleasure, intimacy, physical touch are not too different to what they are anyway. Because as a mum, we very often have the tendency to put others before us, right? So if we're doing that in COVID, it means we were doing it before, and it means that it's highlighted potentially a lack of boundaries, a lack of self-choosing, a lack of choosing pleasure in a way that means actually mum needs 20 minutes by herself upstairs, and I'm going to take that. So actually lots of stuff is about helping mums lean into the taker, I'm claiming time for myself. I'm going to learn how my body behaves, whether it be learning more about the nervous system, learning more about what kind of pleasure you enjoy, learning more about self-touch that feels empowering and enlivening and calming of the nervous system rather than, a quick release and then off to sleep. I think you all know what I mean when I do that, those kind of, orgasmic expressions. So yeah, it's really about being that extra piece of permission at this time to set yourself up for leaning into your pleasure in really unique ways and really specific ways.
Now, you mentioned previously something about gentle experiments. Can you give some examples of what does that even mean?
Sure. So One thing that comes to mind that I speak to people about quite often is the lack of confidence that we sometimes experience when, say, for example, we don't have a certain type of orgasm or a certain type of sensation available to us in our bodies that we really want. So that might be like, you see people like, oh, I love squirting. Or you see people like, oh, I have all these internal orgasms, or I have cervical orgasms, or I have orgasms, full stop. And this is not all about orgasms, but it's the easiest example. So for you, in that moment, we either have a choice. It's like, well, that's not available to me. My body doesn't work like that. I'm broken. I just can't do it. Or it's gentle experiments. It's gentle inquiry and bringing curiosity, playfulness and gentleness to your body looks like, well, there's a certain sensation I want to cultivate. So can I explore my body in a way that might bring some of that sensation forward? You know, so internal stimulation, for example, some people just are like, well, I don't stimulate myself internally. I don't like it. It doesn't feel like anything. Well, no, it won't feel like anything for a while unless you gently explore, you gently cultivate sensation there. You know, the proprioceptors in our body change when we touch ourselves in certain ways. We can build pleasure pathways just the same as changing beliefs or building neural pathways for other things, other habits or expectations we have in our lives. It's the same for pleasure in the body. So that's what I mean by gentle. Yeah.
Beautiful. And, you know, one of the things that I hear a lot from, you know, not just moms, but lots of people is life is really busy and I don't have time for that, right? Especially what you're talking about, you know, gentle experiments, you know, they usually require us to spend some time with ourselves, right? So what kind of, you know, advice and coaching are you offering, as particularly around this piece? I don't have time for that.
Yeah, my offering around that is, okay, if you don't have time for that, you won't have time for that.
Yep.
Don't have time for that then. You either want it or you don't. Seriously, like it sounds a bit kind of, oh, but I don't have time. I was like, well, okay, then it's not something that you want to cultivate in your world. It's not something you want to lean into. It's not something that you're choosing. We create time for the things that start to feel important for us. You know, and so this is no different. The piece that makes it harder is that the expectation and the norm is that you don't make time for this stuff because it should be less important. You shouldn't be going after pleasure. Sex is a bonus. Be grateful for what you've got. Just, you know, head down, bum up, focus on the kids for now. It's not about you, right? And so it's like, okay, we'll do that then. But you can't want both. And also I really, really invite you that if you make the bold stand, this is something I'm going to put aside 20 minutes inside of my 7-day week for. If you actually choose that, put it in your diary. Like we schedule everything, we calendarize everything. So why not this? It's possible. That is my tip. Carve out 20 minutes, head to your bedroom, to your happy place out in the garden, wherever feels good. And at the beginning, it could be 20 minutes of hand on heart and hand on womb or pussy and lying there in deep breathing. Stunning, amazing. That's enough, you know?
Right. So in a previous conversation that I saw you in, you were talking about somatic intelligence and self-responsibility using somatic language. So can you just unpack that for our viewers? You know, what does all that mean?
Sure. So the word somatic, meaning through and of the body. So much of the way that we learn to be in the world is through language, cognition, thinking, thoughts. It's very head driven. There's lots of right and wrong, black and white. They said this, I think this. And we get really celebrated for being intellectually clever in this kind of modern world, right? But what we know, say, as children, and the access we have to our soma, our bodies, our sensation, our playfulness, our embodied curiosity, we lose over time in adulthood. And it's okay. It's not something to be too sad about because we can get it back. We can remember. And what I really enjoy talking about in terms of somatic responsibility and being able to share how you feel without story, without language, without right or wrong, black and white, without blame. You know, when I say to someone, how are you feeling? Oh, sad, tired, angry, annoyed. I'm fine. Okay. But how are you feeling? How does your body feel? What's a word that you have to describe a sensation or your felt sense of your experience in this moment? Oh, okay, well, I feel tight in my chest, I feel tight in my neck, a lump in my throat, some warmth in my belly, and loose through my hips, right? So when you share in that way, there's no blame, there's no frustration, there's no comparison, there's no, I expect you to fix me. And it's a really beautiful way of taking full responsibility of who you are in any given moment and actually unhooking yourself from a story that would have you just say tired, angry, frustrated, or not okay. And when we work with sensation, we can be with it with more presence and we can allow it to move through us with more ease than I'm angry or frustrated. Those words have so much depth and they have so much that we hang on to in those moments. But actually, if I went, okay, well, what does my anger feel like? It feels like a lump in my throat. Can I be with it? Doesn't have as much weight. And it's great in partnerships as well to use somatic language, like in arguments or what have you, because you can move far more quickly.
Right. So how does that show up for you? I mean, is there an example from your own partnership or you're a mama, right? When you use this style of communication of presencing your own reality, what happens to the people that you are relating to? How does it change them and how they show up in relation to you?
Yes. Well, as soon as ever I'm able to say, so like with either of my partners, if I use somatic language to describe how I am, they can actually lean into support rather than be attacked by how I'm feeling, or rather than go, well, is it something that I did? Is it something that I said? What do you need from me? What do you want from me? They can actually show up with a real somatic support in some ways. So if I was to say I'm feeling, tightness in my hips and some, tension in my shoulders, I might get offered a rub. I might get offered some gentle holding. I might just get offered, I hear that, babe. I'm sorry you had a bad sleep, or I'm sorry that you're experiencing that. Let me know if you need anything. And it's way more clear. It's way more easeful than, I'm so tired. I'm so frustrated. Lots of accidental blame and resentment that comes in the other type of language.
Yeah. And you described so much empathy that can come your way when, you're just describing what it's like to be alive in the body, right? And, as you were even saying that, I'm tired, I'm frustrated, I was all like, okay, well, I'll see you later then, right? My own response was like, well, let me give you space, right? And so it was, even if we're being truthful in that moment of describing these like emotions, right? They don't invite more connection and more possibility, right? The kind of accident of it is that we create more disconnection.
More separation, 100%. And it does feel definitely a bit more vulnerable to share from that place of like, this is how how I'm physically experiencing my world right now. And it's in that vulnerability, it's a lot easier for someone else to bring in softness. Yeah. Just what we want in a way.
Yeah. What a good gem of wisdom. Let's just say it again, right? That when we presence our body, the sensation of being alive in the moment, that it invites in more softness, that someone else can show up in more softness. And I think what's so powerful about that too is that I think the people who are closest to us in our lives, they want to be there for us. And sometimes we are so hardened by the world that we don't make it easy for someone to show up and walk into the space with us, right? And I think that is true for a lot of moms. I mean, I am not a parent, but I hear it from a lot of the moms is there's so much that I have to do. This sense of I'm carrying the weight of the family or the burden or doing a lot of the work for the children. And so, I'm giving, and I want to receive, but wow, there's a disconnect or a block there, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Do you, yeah. So how do you address this?
So enabling us to receive more as mums. So I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. I'm running a business, I'm running a household, have 2 relationships, and there's a lot. It's a lot on. Yes. Really, it's about letting go of control. I think actually surrendering into the chaos that is life is a skill to cultivate. Being able to relinquish control, being able to be led, being able to allow yourself to address the moments that you would hold on for dear life to have it a certain way, recognizing that it doesn't always have to be that way for you to be okay. Because inside of the rigidity of holding on and perfection, and we would have it this way, and that's wrong, and I need to do this, those things that it's like, oh, if you want something done, you do it yourself. I feel like lots of mamas have that narrative because for whatever reason, you might be sharing space with someone in your household that is just not doing it right, or is just not doing it the way that you would do it, or you want to hyper manage and hyper control everything. And I'm telling you, you will have no space to receive anything, whether it be a gentle touch from a lover or an orgasm or money or the opportunities you want. There's no space for receiving in holding on. So the chaos, the divine chaos, the calling in and the letting go of I'm supported, I'm guided, everything that I need is all around me. And it's not exactly as I would do it or as I would have it, but are my children taken care of? Yes. Do they have food? Yes. Do they have a home and shelter? Yes. There's nothing to hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's what comes to mind for me. And I think lots and lots of mothers that I work with definitely need this piece around relinquishing, letting go, surrendering, yielding, softening, opening, because we are naturally receptive creatures, I feel. And sometimes, the rigidity will cut us off from that.
Right. So that rigidity that you are speaking of, right, it can get in the way, or it can be the big block that inhibits us from getting into the softness or the connection with our partner, the sensuality, the sexuality, the place that, I think for a lot of women, we need some bit of safety and calm and softness before we can get into higher states of arousal, before we can get into the orgasm. And yet the thing that you're describing, when you leaned back, it was like, oh, we need that kind of surrender in order to have the orgasm, right? That's exactly what that is. It's a letting go, having a full breath, and allowing all of those sensations to wash over us.
That's right. Absolutely. I do just want to acknowledge, I think that we're all on a sliding scale of feeling safe enough to do that though. So right. Yeah, there's the holding piece and the control piece, but recognizing that we do that because there's something we're protecting from, and you may be feeling unsafe or uncertain inside of your situation. I don't even necessarily mean relational, but we do need to cultivate a certain amount of safety for us to be able to feel that lean back. Mm-hmm. So acknowledging as well that is a journey, because we all have different versions of trauma and wounding and relational pieces, that there's lots of emotions there. There's lots of things to be felt and processed and soothed and healed. And so, if you are someone listening to this and watching this and you do sense that this letting go and this falling back is difficult for you, it's just an invitation to be gentle with yourself and go, okay, it's not just one choice, it's a whole set of choices and a whole kind of body of exploration that can be done to help you cultivate those. And you do need to feel safe in order to do it.
Mm-hmm. Right. There are so many opportunities, and throughout the day, not just with sexuality, where we can, lean into our somatic intelligence and really feel and use that language to find the moments where we do feel safe, right? Or where we can create that for ourselves. So, I mean, just in a final way, if there's three things that, you want to say to moms to, either inspire them or give them more permission, what would it be?
One thing is that as a mom, as a center point of the home, when we can liberate and heal our sexual expression, then we unconsciously and consciously help create liberated households of safe and sexual and alive beings. So recognizing that when we heal our kids. We heal to take shame out of our bodies, the shame out of our inherited stories, and therefore we can stop the cycles of hiding and taboo and underexpression and confusion inside of our little children. So that's one kind of, inspiration and permission piece. Another one is that you are alive, we are alive, our children and you, all of us came from this energy of life force. And so while your heart is beating, allow your sex to be part of your aliveness, and it will be the biggest gift to yourself and your family you could ever imagine. There's nothing else you need to do, no one else you need to be to deserve sensation and pleasure and full expression inside of your body and your being. Nothing you need to do. No kind of like, oh, I deserve it now. If your heart's beating, you deserve it. If your heart's beating, it's yours. You just got to lift the lid and claim it and take it.
Yes.
Yes,
absolutely. Yes.
That's it. Yeah. And go gently. And in slowness, there is a potency that, 0 to 100 really, really could never, ever compare to. So be gentle.
I just want to thank you again for bringing this piece around, when we show up in our sex, whatever that may mean to us, that it has a positive influence on the people around us, because we show up as more integrated, as more fully alive in our own body. And it really teaches the people around us, especially, if you have children or young people, that it's okay for them to do that too. It's okay for them to be fully alive. And that's I think a really valuable part, because of this message that you're supposed to wait, or you're supposed to keep it behind closed doors. You're supposed to wait until the kids are grown and away, and so presencing it and being in the here and now is just so valuable.
Very cool. See it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tamica. It was really wonderful to have this conversation with you. I look forward to many more, and just really want to appreciate you for the work that you're doing in the world.
Thanks, Eva. Thanks for having me on. It was definitely a great convo. Very much enjoyed it. Appreciate it.
Excellent. And for all of you who are listening, come back tomorrow, because there's going to be another fantastic conversation with another expert in another realm of women's sexuality. And I'll see you then.